Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. The other day, someone left a comment asking what my personal financial goals were and asking if I would go over that. And I thought that was a great question. Actually, I've had this channel for 2 years and I'm kind of surprised I haven't discussed this before now. So today we're gonna fix that. I did ask my husband to be a part of this video because it's no longer just me on my own personal financial journey with my own personal goals. Instead, it is us as a couple and building a life together. Fun fact, the date that this video is released is tax day. It's a very easy date to remember, but that marks the 7-year anniversary from the date we actually met. We met standing in line to board an airplane. We got on the airplane and we sat next to each other and we talked for the whole duration of that flight. We both had a layover, so we grabbed a coffee, we exchanged numbers, and 2 weeks later we had our first in-person date, but we did have a couple FaceTime dates in between there. You might notice that he is not here. When I asked him, he said no, that he didn't want to be on camera, so that means that I get to speak for him. No, I will do a good job. I started saving and investing when I was very young. I bought my first stock when I was 8 years old. It was actually Campbell's Soup. Look at those little kids and their chubby little cheeks. They're so cute. I still love them to this day. I don't know if at 8 it was my goal to be a millionaire, but it has been my goal for as long as I can possibly remember. I didn't really have a reasoning behind this goal. I just always thought millionaires were pretty cool. But I definitely grew up in a family where money was very much an open subject. My brother and I actually had a competition to see who could become a millionaire the fastest. But we definitely grew up in that environment where you were encouraged to save and to invest and to build wealth. As I've gotten older, my financial plans and my money goals have gotten a little bit more specific than hopefully one day I'll be a millionaire. Now, I think everyone has a specific number in mind that they want to hit when it comes to their financial goals. Personally, for me, strictly from a numbers standpoint, my goal is to hit $4 million in investments. Don't worry, I still have a long way to go. Now, I am not a person who likes to tally in the equity in my home into my net worth. It's just a personal perspective. I don't look at my home as something that's income producing, so I don't like to factor it in. I have no plans to house hack, to rent out a room. I've done all of that. At this point, I'm in my mid-30s and I just want my home to be for me and my family, and that's it. I just want my own space at this point in my life. So obviously that's a pretty big leap to go from a goal of $1 million to a goal of $4 million. But you have to consider that I set the goal of $1 million when I was a kid. And also, $1 million is an extraordinary feat. Yes, it is. But also $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to. So I may even have to reevaluate my $4 million number as time goes on. It really depends on the nation's economic environment, what inflation looks like over the next couple decades, and really how far $4 million can go once I'm prepared to retire. I plan on loosely following the 4% rule, which is where you simply withdraw 4% of your investment portfolio to live on every single year in retirement. But being that one of the founders of the 4% rule himself has said that the 4% rule might be too conservative, I may go with a 5% withdrawal rate. Again, this really all depends on what typical market returns are over the next couple decades and what inflation looks like over the next couple decades. So we'll just kind of have to see as that gets a little bit closer. So if I hit that goal of $4 million in investments by the time I reach retirement and I withdraw 4%, that would provide an income of $160,000 a year. If I withdraw 5%, that would provide an annual income of $200,000. I like to assume, actually, let's rephrase that. I don't like to assume taxes, but I have to. I assume taxes will take about 1/3 of that, which would leave me anywhere from $107,000 to $133,000 to spend annually. Now, I do say that I plan on loosely following the rule of 4%, and that's because I want to adapt my spending based on how the market is performing. So if the market is in an extreme downturn year, I want to withdraw less than 4%. Now, I know the rule of 4% is built to withstand those market downturns, but this plays over to the emotional side of money. I am a very cautious person, so I would want to drop my withdrawal rate just as an extra layer of caution and as a precautionary measure because I don't want to run out of money in retirement. Now, before entering into retirement, we would want to have our home paid off. Of course, we would want to have our home paid off because who wants a mortgage in retirement? But there's also a chance that we might have two homes. So both of those would need to be paid off in retirement. But we don't really know where we want to live. My husband is in the service and we move every handful of years. He still has at least 7 years left, potentially more. So it's not really possible for us to set down permanent roots yet. So that part of our plan is still all a little bit of a blur. Now, I grew up in northern Michigan and I love northern Michigan. It is gorgeous with the lakes, with the peaceful surroundings. The summers there are beautiful. However, the winters are kind of terrible. I had 29 years of cold and ice and snow and I am over it. But I also really loved Washington State. The Pacific Northwest is gorgeous with the mountains and the waterfalls, and I could definitely see myself settling down there too. But the fact of the matter is, we still have a handful of moves to go through, and there's still a chance that we could move to a new place and fall in love with that one. So we really don't know where we want to settle down yet. But I do know that my husband and I both love Hawaii, and we have discussed a handful of times about having a winter home in Hawaii so we don't have to deal with cold and snow and ice. My husband and I both really like moderate climates. We don't want to live where it's too hot or too cold, so that rules out Michigan in the winter because I've literally lived through negative 45-degree weather. It's horrible and I don't want to do it again. But I also don't think that I can handle like Florida in the middle of summer with 100% humidity and 90+ degree temperatures. I will literally melt. I just want to be comfortable at this phase of my life. But whether we have one home or two homes, they would both have to be fully paid off if we go into retirement. One thing's for sure, we want to live near the water. I love the water. I love going to the beach. I grew up doing that every single day. And I know it may not look like it because literally I look like a marshmallow. Trust me, I get it, but I wear a lot of sunscreen. I wear frownies. I do whatever I can to fight the wrinkles. I'm just trying to age well over here. As I said, my husband is in the service and that plays a big factor into our retirement plans. He is making a full career out of the service, so that means he has to do at least 20 years. At that point, he will be eligible for a pension that would be up to about 40% of his base pay. For those unfamiliar with military pay, it's broken down into different parts, base pay and your housing allowance most often being the largest two portions. Your retirement pension is based on your final 36 months of pay, so we're going to try to choose a retirement date that optimizes his pension, obviously. If he opts to stay in the service for longer than 20 years, his pension can raise to be a greater percentage of his base pay, so that'll increase your pension for the rest of your life. But as 20 years approaches, we'll kind of reevaluate. If he still loves his job, then he may stay in for longer. If we're tired of constantly moving around, maybe he'll get out. We'll address that more as it gets closer. At 20 years, he will be 41 years old, so he'll still have a lot of good working years left in him. Obviously, this is something we discuss, but we don't really have a solid plan yet. Ultimately, I just want him to be happy. If he likes what he's doing, he'll continue to do it. If he's ready to leave the service, then he'll leave at the 20-year mark. So the decision is all his to make. He has said that if he leaves, he might go look for another job that offers a pension. In the past, he's been a firefighter and he really enjoyed that. Or the railroad could potentially be another option because they are a very military-friendly employer. But honestly, who knows? He's actually back in school right now working on a degree in finance. I would like to think that I had some kind of influence there, but he seems to really enjoy that subject matter, so maybe that's an option too. The good news about him being a service member is that it will give us access to affordable healthcare even after he's done with military life. As far as a retirement date, I personally like the idea of wrapping things up around the age of 55, so that means I have 20 years left. I used to be a fire member and I wanted to be financially independent and retire at the age of 40. But nowadays, I can't really see that happening because I actually love what I'm doing, so I don't want to step away from it for the foreseeable future. And especially things would change if we have a kiddo. Those little creatures are super expensive, so we would need to keep saving, investing, and building wealth to start the little kiddo off on the right foot financially as well. Also, Steve and I really love to travel. Obviously, the pandemic threw a big old wrench in that, but we are slowly getting back into it. But that plays a big factor in us wanting to have so much built up for retirement. We want to be able to do that more when we have more free time on our hands. We don't want to be held back and limited with a budget. Maybe I should say strict budget. We don't want to be held back by a strict budget because obviously there would still be a budget there. I always like to say that these are my goals for right now. As you'll notice, a lot of them are fairly generalized, but they tend to get a little bit more specific as I get older and as I figure out what I want my life to look like. As my life changes, it is very likely that my financial goals will change and adapt to suit my lifestyle. But as of today, these are my goals, subject to change. Maybe we love traveling so much that we become uninterested in the idea of owning 2 homes. Maybe Steve wraps up his military life at 20 years, but maybe he keeps going. Maybe he gets a job post-military life that offers a pension. Maybe the job he gets doesn't offer a pension. Maybe we have a kid. Maybe we don't. Honestly, I don't really have an answer as to which way we're going to go on a lot of these matters, but these decisions will greatly influence our financial life. So we're kind of yet to see what happens. But as far as a number, what am I aiming to hit? Right now, my goal is $4 million in investments. From there, we'll see what happens. Well, I hope I answered that question. If you have any others, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. If there's enough of them, I will do a full dedicated Q&A video. So just let me know your thoughts down below. If you got anything at all out of this video, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I post new videos every week, so I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.